My friend asked me to draw her dog, and when I first saw the dog, I loved her. And this is her account if you're interested in checking out her Instagram. But afterwards, when I realized she had so much curly hair to draw, I was like, how am I gonna do that? And I thought to myself, no, I didn't say that. I thought to myself, I can do this. And I did. And besides that, I'm going to show you how to draw realistic fur in animal portrait drawings with colored pencils. Some of the tips you might never know. If you want to draw this dog with me step by step in real time, then you can subscribe to my Patreon, patreon.com/Ece Gurler. I have other tutorials about dog portraits in pastels and charcoal if you're interested in checking them out. They are right here. And also, I had a colored pencil drawing tutorial about a cat drawing. It's right up here. Now, let's draw this cute dog, Hera. I want to start with the sketch because sketch was the important part in drawing the curly fur. This is our pretty dog, Hera, and look at this curly part. I mean, the initial sketch looks like a brain structure, like with all these curls. What do you think? I don't know. That's what I thought. Now, this was my strategy. First, I drew the negative spaces. What is a negative space? Let me show you. So Wikipedia says negative space in art is the space around and between the subject of an image. So these are the spots that in the background, all the black parts are negative space. Another example that I want to show you is right here. I'm cutting out this paper to show you what negative space meant in this sense. So the shape you see, the white parts are going to be your main image, but all the spaces in between, all these diamond shapes will be negative space. Following this strategy, I added my sepia, my darkest tone, in these negative space areas. So these are the darkest spots that I see in the photo. This will help me where I'm going to go in with my midtones and then the lightest tones. I usually go with the darkest one first and I add the lightest tone second and I add the midtones later. Here, it didn't look bad at all. So as you can see, following the negative space guided me through all the fur directions. One of the things that you want to be careful about is the lines that you're drawing with your darkest shade needs to curl just a little bit at the end. Don't finish it very straight, okay? Because this is curly hair, so it needs to end somehow curly. So after I added those details and finished all these midtones and the lightest tones, I did maybe like 4 or 5 layers. Then I can go with my X-Acto knife and give all these fur details even more. Because now I have a few layers already, it's going to be really easy to scrape off that paint at the top. I'm trying not to follow the direction of the hair, just a little bit like those rebellious hair, drawing all this flying fur details right here with my X-Acto knife. There's also some curly fur here. As you can see, I'm doing zigzags with my X-Acto knife to give that curl effect. And also below the nose, the mustache. This part is more straight, so I'm trying to give more straight, fine details right there. Using markers saved me a lot of time and effort. So as a base, you can use watercolor or you can use markers. It just depends on you. I'm using vellum paper. It doesn't work well with watercolor, so I'm just going to use my markers. I added some blue at the base layer because I didn't want to use black as itself. So I think having a base layer, a different color like indigo or purple, makes your black pop out. I did the same thing with the nose. As you can see, I added some blue and purple, and I added some Payne's gray, and I blended out with my solvent. Once I made sure it's dry, I went over it with my black color, my black colored pencil, and I blended out and I went in again. I blended out, I went in again. So after 3 or 4 layers, I had the perfect nose. I also used markers on the leash because it is a very wide area. I just didn't want to waste my time just coloring with my colored pencils because it would take forever, guys, to create this base layer with colored pencils. But now I only drew the base layer with my markers and I went over it with my colored pencils and boom, that's short and sweet. I love it. In your animal portraits, you can use solvent base as well. How do you use solvent in your base layer? Let me show you. I shaded here first with very light base, like brown ochre 10%, and I went over it with my solvent. Guys, make sure that you only have just a little amount of solvent on your brush, because otherwise it's going to give that oily, greasy look. It's like grayish tone, grayish color on your paper, which you don't really want. Afterwards, I went with my brush on this shaded area with circular motions, and you can see that I created a very nice base layer. Once you make sure that it's dry, you can go over with your pencils and you can give all the details that you want. Here you see me adding all the midtones. Burnishing is another method you can use in your animal portraits. After adding all these midtones and darkest tones, you go over with your lightest color, just right here, like brown ochre 10%, and you press on your paper while you're shading with this pencil. I am putting a lot of pressure right now so that all these lower layers blend in each other. Here you see me adding all these burnt sienna color, and I add some highlights with my white, and I add also other browns and ochre colors, and I can go over them with my blender. It's a blending pencil and I highly recommend it, guys. There are so many brands out there, the brand doesn't really matter. And after I blend, after I burnish, I can give details with my X-Acto knife. Here you see different sizes of crochet knitting needles, and I'm going to use the tiniest one. So this is the smallest needle I have, and I'm going to create these dents on my paper in the shape of fur. I'm putting a lot of pressure, yes, but I'm not harming my paper. I'm not gonna tear it, of course. I'm leaving those dents so that when I go over them with my brown or my midtones afterwards, you will see those lines as white color. This is perfect, guys, because you cannot really go over with your white colored pencils over your darkest tones. So this method really saves you a lot of effort and time. Another method that I want to show you, let's say you forgot to dent, or let's say you don't have this needle, what are you going to do? You can use a white gel pen. But first, let's create a better surface for our gel pen before we go in with that. I have my hairspray here, but if you have a fixative spray, of course, it's much better because this stinks and also it's a little bit sticky. But if you have a fixative spray for pastels or charcoal, you can use that. And you will realize after you apply the spray, it's much easier to go in with your white gel pen over these lighter colors. When it comes to mouth, first I made sure that I erased my sketch very well. I went in with my markers again because it's a large surface and I had this pink. Then I went over with my lilac color, my violet, and my purple, and of course my pink. For the darkest colors, I went in with my Payne's gray first, and it wasn't enough because it was really dark. So I went in with my sepia and black as the final details. And for the teeth, I used gray. Of course, I'm not gonna leave them white. I used French gray 10% and French gray to give all these details on the tooth. Of course, the mouth is black, but undertones were purple, so I added those purple with my markers. Another negative space technique I want to talk about, as I told you before, you cannot go on darker with lighter colored pencils, but you can go over your lighter ones with your darker ones to create negative space so that it's just going to look like you drew over dark with your lighter pencil, but it's the opposite. Here too, I did exact same method right here. Look, it looked like I painted over dark with my lighter tone, but it's the opposite. I drew on lighter one with my dark pencil. Ha! Good trick. I also want to show you how I created the blurry look on the lower part of this cute dog, Hera. I tried two methods for you guys. For the left one, I applied burnishing, and for the right part, I applied solvent. And if you ask me, I didn't like how solvent turned out. It darkened the color, first of all, and second of all, it didn't give the blurry effect that I was looking for. So, as a second layer, I went over there and I did burnishing as well. I believe burnishing gives the best result if you want to give this very blurry look. But at the same time, I had waxed base pencils, and I think that played a very important role creating this beautiful blurry effect. I think it would be harder with an oil-based pencil, so if you have oil-based pencil, I highly recommend you to use a solvent instead. That's it, guys. I hope you found this tutorial helpful and you learned something that you didn't know. If you want to continue watching, just click next. I will see you in my next video. Bye. Thanks for watching my video. If you like my videos, please don't forget to subscribe. And for my real-time narrated tutorials, visit my Patreon, patreon.com/Ece Gurler. Stay with art and love.